Good afternoon, everyone. The Standing Committee on Heritage, Infrastructure, and Cultural Policy will now come to order, please. We're here to resume public hearings on Bill 131, an act to enact the GO Transit Station Funding Act 2023, and to amend the City of Toronto Act 2006. Today's remaining presenters have been scheduled in groups of 3 for each 1-hour time slot, with each presenter allotted 7 minutes for an opening statement, followed by 39 minutes of questioning for all 3 witnesses, divided into 2 rounds of 7.5 minutes for the government members, 2 rounds of 7.5 minutes for the official opposition members, and 2 rounds of 4.5 minutes for the independent member of this committee. Committee members, are there any questions? All right. Seeing none, I will now call on Nina Deb, Mark Conway, who's the president of Barry Lyon Consultants Limited, and the regional chair of the Regional Municipality of Durham, John Henry, who is also the chief executive officer. And I think we're joined, yes, I see, Lorraine Hulnick, who's the director of Rapid Transit and Transit-Oriented Development from the region of Durham, is joining us by Zoom. Welcome, everyone. So our first presenter is going to be Nina Deb. You will have 7 minutes for your presentation, and you'll be speaking directly to me, not to committee members, please. And you may begin. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair and committee members. Thank you for hearing me today. My name is Nina Deb. I've been a real estate broker, a full-time realtor in this province since 1996. And I would like to point out a few things on this bill. One of the things that I have noticed is there is a new financial tool that is being created that diverts transit development costs to others. The others are not being consulted on. The others are the ones that would be paying for these costs. The funding of transit projects must not be at the expense of local taxpayers. Provincial transit development plans must not be diverted for payment by anyone else. Enabling municipalities to volunteer municipal taxpayers to pay for these projects is inappropriate. The local taxpayers must be consulted on such a plan. I would like to see this deleted, withholding of building permit if charges due are not paid. This adds red tape and restricts the development of housing and runs contradictory to building homes faster. I would also like to see deleted in the regulations the municipality to establish a reserve fund for transit station charges. These reserve funds that are being held throughout our province are holding billions and billions of dollars, and this reserve fund should not be set up. Also, I'd like to see Schedule 2 be deleted. Funding diversion is not in the best interest of the people of Ontario. It is impossible to measure the number of homes needed when we are not in a position to measure the number of homes that we are losing to short-term rental platforms. The new definition of housing affordability is inaffordable. It's not affordable to the people of this province. As of right, zoning should not be limited to transit areas only because we are trying to build housing fast. So to have this restriction of transit areas only is not helpful. Ontario must build housing first so our new residents can find a new home and so that our new residents stay. We need this immigration. The lack of housing is forcing the people that come to Ontario to look elsewhere for an environment that is better for their families. They think like families. The people of Ontario think like a family. They don't think like just a resident of Ontario. They must be able to live here. The other thing that I've noticed is the City of Toronto Act. I would like to delete this loophole of Section 6, which is may and may not grant tax exemptions, development charges exemptions. When we exempt taxes and we still have a transit station, it was paid for somehow. So that transit station, which is a real asset, it was really built. Who paid to build that transit station? That's the local taxpayers. This development charge waiver needs to be deleted. Municipal Act 2001, the transit station charges exemptions. I will quote this, may exempt from the payment of all or part of the transit station charges. This is an expansion of services recoverable under development charges. Transit is not housing. I would also quote here as well, this is a side load of, this is my own observation, this is a side load of building costs to the local taxpayers. So it is being side loaded, not downloaded, side loaded. Metrolinx has this responsibility, and Metrolinx should carry on with this responsibility. I am watching taxpayer funds being used for private corporations at every level of government. I'm watching private corporations being put in a position that they can access public dollars. That is happening locally with development charges being waived. That is happening provincially. That is happening. It is even happening through the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, through the $82.5 billion, which we are seeing some of it. Who we should look to? We should be looking to Quebec. Quebec has done the best job of maintaining their housing stock for the people of Quebec. We don't need to look too far to look at a province that has done better than everyone else in Canada. So I would like to see some positive changes. I'm looking for some positive amendments. But ultimately, transit is not housing. I don't want to see housing equity paying for anything other than housing. Housing has been put by the wayside for a long time. I've been asking for money for housing for years because the responsibility has been downloaded to the municipalities, and that's where the money needs to go in order for the municipalities to be able to do the job that has been downloaded to them. We are leaving very, very large holes in our finances with the municipalities. This has been done by consecutive legislation changes that have made it very difficult for the municipalities to operate. The municipalities are having to look at other resources, things like reducing their speed limits to 30 and 40 kilometers. This is throughout the province, and it's in other provinces too that I'm noticing this. Reducing speed limits in order to incur fines by photo radar these are being placed next to schools because the education system is being used as the excuse of why we need to fund this way. This isn't factual. The facts are the municipalities are needing the money in order to
30
provide
seconds remaining.
The programs that they are trying to provide. The municipalities need assistance, not obstacles in the way. In order to make housing affordable, we need to get rid of red tape, and we need to get rid of we have a lot of private corporations that have been invited to the table that don't belong here. I can name the 14 delegated authorities for one, and we should be making good changes.
Thank you very much for your presentation. We'll now move to which one? Yep, okay. Mark Conway, I guess, is next. I know it's not in the order that's at the desk, but it doesn't matter. Whoever wants to go. Okay. Mayor, your worship, Mayor Henry, please.
Well, good afternoon, Chair and committee members. And my name's John Henry. I'm the Regional Chair and CEO of the Region Municipality of Durham. And I'm here representing Durham Region's Council and Durham Region, and I'm joined by Lorraine Hunick as well. I am incredibly excited to be here in front of you to express my support for Bill 131 and the Future Transportation Act. As you may be aware, Durham Region has been working with many provincial governments for over 30 years to see the GO Train service extended to Bowmanville a 20-kilometer extension involving 4 proposed new GO stations. We are thrilled that this work is proceeding, and we simply could not be more pleased to see this much-needed extension coming together. We've been working in partnership with the province, with MOI, Metrolinx, MTO, on all aspects of this extension. We know the benefits of the rapid transit that rapid transit brings, and we are so excited to be working together to make this change happen in Durham Region. In 2018, when the province shifted to a market-driven approach for new GO stations, we knew that Durham had to innovate to support the 4 new GO stations. We knew that Toronto's approach to market-driven strategy would not be cookie-cutter a solution for Durham. So we reached out to one of the best consultants in the GTA to help us set a roadmap up to ensure that Durham Region could achieve the benefits of transit-oriented communities and ensure that Durham residents could be connected to the rest of the GTHA. We quickly pivoted to establish a new rapid transit office and a transit-oriented development office. We have worked very closely with MOI on land value capture strategies that advance the province's existing market-driven strategy into an approach that can be applied outside the more densely populated city core. We believe that the transit station charge achieves this outcome. I know that the other suburban cities looking for a way to harness the potential of TOC will also be examining the new tool in the toolkit with great interest. Like the province, we believe that leveraging the value of transit investments so that the benefiters pay is always a way forward that respects the taxpayer. And that is why we're here today, to tell you that we support this new legislation, specifically the transit station charge. This is precisely the direction that we believe the province should be going. We plan to continue to explore how we can use this new tool because we are 100% behind the principles that underpin it. And we would like to express again our sincere belief that the kind of collaboration is a way to advance community building. In addition to having all our 4 GO stations open on day 1, this collaboration could unlock 36,000 housing units around these stations and create over 41,000 new jobs as indicated in the region's official plan. We know that realizing housing in a vibrant TOC supports building complete communities. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak on this innovative approach to funding rapid transit and infrastructure.
Very much for your presentation. Okay, now we'll move to Mark Conway, please. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Mark Conway. I'm the president of N. Barry Line Consultants Limited here in the City of Toronto. I'm a professional urban planner and a professional land economist. And I want to thank you for this opportunity to make a presentation in support of Bill 131, the Future of Transportation Act. Since 1979, my firm, most people know us by NBLC instead of saying N. Barry Line Consultants. NBLC has been involved in supporting the development community. Primarily, my clients are developers. And primarily what we do for developers is help them understand the market and economic implications of building very large, very complex, mostly residential developments in the Greater Toronto Area. We also work across country, but it just happens that most of the development is here in the City of Toronto. And we've also worked alongside our municipal, provincial, and federal partners in devising affordable housing strategies. We provide market and economic guidance on policies that support affordable and diverse communities here in the city and across Canada. We have tested and developed policies and incentive programs that help affordable housing for most major cities, and including regeneration strategies for the repurposing of public housing stock in Windsor and Sudbury and Hamilton and here in the City of Toronto. We wrote the business plan for the Regent Park Revitalization Program, and it's one of my most proudest professional moments to drive through that community these days. But I'm here to tell the committee that all these strategies pale in comparison to what public transit investment does for affordable housing. The economic, social, environmental, and cultural benefits that come with well-planned transit-oriented communities are highly valued by today's buyers and renters. 80% of all new housing in the GTA is within 500 meters of a transit station. Even in the market today, which is quite a bit slower than it has been, we sold about 9,000 condo units, both for condo and rental units are under construction, or 9,000 sold. 90% of those sales are within 500 meters of a transit station. So understanding this, we're routinely engaged by transit providers, including Metrolinx, OC Transpo in Ottawa, Region of Waterloo, all to provide guidance on how to maximize the economic strategies that aim to maximize the broad housing benefits that come with transit investment. So in 2019, we were retained by Durham Region to help secure an alignment for the GO extension to Bowmanville that offered the best opportunity for the creation of new transit-oriented communities at the planned station. The work recommended an alignment with 4 new stations that illustrated the best opportunity to attract residential and commercial investment. But how the stations would be funded was a bigger challenge. The committee is aware that these new stations on the GO train system must be funded by the benefiting landowners. Metrolinx introduced this market-driven strategy in 2018 as a land value capture mechanism in anticipation of a planned $100 billion spend. The market-driven strategy is meant to facilitate cooperation between the public sector and developers to finance the construction of new transit stations with the profits from transit, commercial, and residential development. So this works really well in downtown Toronto, where there is maybe one landowner and a very strong market. Future stations at Park Lawn, the former Mr. Christie site, by First Capital, and East Harbor, the former Lever detergent property, and the East Harbor station. These are all being funded by one developer who can afford to fund the full cost of a station based on the land value uplift that comes from transit investment. These are very big numbers and very powerful developments. However, the market-driven strategy is less effective in station areas where there are many landowners and the market is not as strong. And landowners may have different interests. And this is the condition in Durham. It's also the condition in many other communities outside of the powerful City of Toronto market. In each of the 4 stations proposed for Bowmanville GO extension, it's unlikely that any one of the single owners would have the funds to pay for a station. Even if they could, there should be a mechanism where all benefiting owners should share in the benefit of this transit investment. The proposed legislation through Bill 131 would offer municipalities, and the development community a new tool that could resolve the station funding issue, and in doing so, accelerate the construction of new transit-oriented communities. Bill 131 will allow municipalities to negotiate a long-term strategy for developers, both large and small, to equitably share the cost of transit stations as they would typically for any other necessary infrastructure such as a new park, roads, water services, community centers, and sanitary services. The transit station charge provided for in Bill 131 is offset by the significant land value increases that a landowner or developer would experience as a result of the market-driven demand now for high-density development. Other positive impacts, such as the reduced need for parking and the deferral of the charge till the very moment the developer intends to build, offer additional economic benefits. Our analysis suggests that these and other economic benefits can offset the station charge and as a result put no upward pressure on home pricing. In short, the legislation in Bill 131 offers the opportunity to equitably resolve a barrier to development of new transit-oriented communities in Durham Region.
I'm sorry you're out of time, but thank you very much. I didn't give you the warning. I was listening so intently. I'm sorry. Okay, thank you very much, all of you, for your presentations. And we're now going to move to questions and answer parts. So we'll start off with MPP Harden for 7.5 minutes, and he'll tell you who he's going to direct the questions to. So
thank you, Chair. Thank you very much to all the presenters for being with us this afternoon. We greatly appreciate it. So, Mr. Henry, pleasure to have you here. I will just say at the outset, by way of levity, that I had the experience to ride through your beautiful community on my bicycle, promoting a road safety bill, stopping along the way, and I had occasion to talk to many neighbors who want that Bowmanville GO station. So that you are ably representing those voices that I heard loud and clear. I did have some questions, though, because our job is to scrutinize legislation at this committee and in the House. Not a question of entrapment, I'll say that, don't worry. Not trying to trick you into saying something you don't want to say. But if Metrolinx is in fact the provincial agency responsible for building public infrastructure at the provincial level, would you prefer a situation in which the Bowmanville station, the 4 stations involved in the extension, did not have to be financed at the municipal level and were in fact financed at the provincial level?
Interesting question. So I'll start off in my opening comments is that the region of Durham has waited 30 years to get to where we are today. And the province isn't going to, or Metrolinx is not going to build any more GO stations. This plan, what it does is it allows us to use the uplift on the properties around the stations, the increased density within the properties that will be made available because they won't be making parking spots available. It'll increase the amount of housing that will be available. It will support the two-way travel coming in and out of Durham because you know the Durham region is home to Ontario Tech, Durham College, Trent University, and now a new campus for Queen's University in our hospital. And that this plan, what it does is the areas around the stations pay for the stations. It doesn't mean Durham region's 2,500 square kilometers. The people that will not use transit should not pay for it, not out of regional taxes. And this plan works. The uplift is a good thing. The amount of housing it will create, the fact that we're going to build one of the first transit-oriented villages in Curtis, specifically designed around transit, that we have a 10-year master plan for our bus, Durham Region Transit, to coordinate along with this plan to make sure that our transit is there. And for young people and the affordability. Young people are struggling now, but if you have to have 2 cars and a place to live, and now you have the option of having one place to live with amazing transit, it will allow you to have that life that we all dream about. And young people today deserve that have that opportunity. And people that will live around the stations will live there because they want to live there.
I take your point. So how much time do I have, Chair? Sorry.
1.5 minutes.
Okay. So I take your point. What concerns me, though, and I guess I'll move on, Mr. Conway, to you because you've been working in this sector for a long time. Are you familiar with any other instance in your professional work where municipalities are being asked to completely bear the financial risk of provincial infrastructure? Because that's, as the transit critic for the province, that's what I understand these GO stations to be, and I take the points that have been raised, they're critical. But if I were in the region's shoes, I would love it if the province would pay for provincial infrastructure. It really seems to me as if Metrolinx's plan for transit-oriented communities has failed. They have not produced new GO stations for people in Bowmanville and elsewhere, and they're so desperately needed. So my question to you then is, are you familiar with any other instance in this province or in another Canadian province where municipalities are being asked to bear the financial risk for provincial infrastructure?
No, I'm not. This is a very unusual situation, and the risks that come with this have to be balanced against the rewards that come with transit-oriented investment. And of course, these risks get evaluated in much greater detail with the background study. No one's saying with this legislation we move forward. What we're moving forward to is the next stage where the risks that you've acknowledged get tightened up as tightly as we can. And but in our analysis, looking at this for Durham Region, we think the risks are minimal. We think that Canada will keep growing, investment will keep growing around transit stations, and if you were betting on where to invest on communities, you'd invest in transit all the time.
I have no argument to that, sir, whatsoever. However, 2 minutes, what am I at?
2.5.
Thank you, Chair. I'm getting a good acumen of guessing around here. So I take your point. However, what worries me is this is precedent. We've never seen, and I've done my own research, and it seems like you're bringing to this table a lot of experience. I have never seen a municipality being asked to bear the financial risk of provincial infrastructure. For me, it just shows how dire the need is. The other thing we've heard from the Minister of Infrastructure is that there will be an expectation for private sector partners involved in these transit-oriented communities, building housing and other amenities. There will be an expectation that the municipality will offer incentives of some kind to encourage and offset the investment of those private sector partners. Are you familiar, given discussions with the ministry, given your own experience, what would some of those incentives be?
Well, the number one incentive would be, as Chair Henry has already pointed out, is that by doing this, developers don't have to build as much parking. In fact, in some of our analysis, the reduction of parking, right now, if you were building a condo in Clarington at the Bowmanville station, you'd have to provide one parking space for every unit, just because there's no transit.
Right.
Put transit in place, that comes down to 0.7. So for every space, you only have to build 1.7 spaces. So that reduction in parking has a mammoth impact on the value in the profit line. So it's not a financial incentive, but it's an incentive that comes with this investment.
And just for the record, in the 40 seconds that I have left. Oh, wow. Just for the record, I think a reasonable person could see that trade-off. Where I'm concerned, however, is if there are any other incentives offered to private sector partners at a time when we urgently need to use every dollar to build transit-oriented communities, affordable housing. That's my concern. That's our concern from the official opposition standpoint. I also think this has been so kicked down the road. So I want to salute the region for your advocacy and pushing for this and having plans in place. But if I heard correctly, Chair, I really think folks would like the province to play a more active role in the financing of this work, if possible. And we certainly are sitting on considerable surpluses at the provincial level. Thank you for being here this afternoon.
Thank you very much. I'll move on to the independent MPP McMahon. When you're ready, you have 5 minutes. Oh, 4.5, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
back to 4.5.
So I only
Sorry, I
have
was gone for a
4.5
minute.
minutes, so we have to kind of do speed conversing. But thank you very much for your time coming in today and your knowledge, and Lorraine online and everyone else in person. I really appreciate it. And wow, impressive backgrounds, especially Mr. Regent Park Master Plan Wizard. That's fantastic. So very credible. And you're speaking my language. It's the music to my ears to hear anything about investing in transit, reducing greenhouse gases. Big environmentalists here, and I feel that we as the province, we're not doing enough to attack the climate emergency. So this is great. And I get transit-oriented communities. I lived in Japan a zillion years ago, and we're nowhere near a zillion years ago in Japan, but this is a step in the right direction. I do have Main Street in beautiful Beaches, East York, where I represent. It's a huge mobility hub, as you would be well aware, with Danforth Go, subways, buses, streetcars, to name it, and we're building up, absolutely. And we need to build up mandatory, as of right, along the avenues in the City of Toronto. That's another story. But for questions today, first of all, John Henry was speaking about your new office, your rapid transit office. Did I get the right name? I don't think so.
Yeah, it's transit-oriented development office.
And can you explain that office to me, what it all entails, the staffing and whatnot, and how we could replicate it across the province?
Thank you. I have Lorraine Hunick with me, who is the director of that office. And Lorraine, would you like to answer that question?
Hi, good afternoon, and I'd be pleased to answer the question. Thank you for it. The Rapid Transit and Transit-Oriented Development Office was intended to
Sorry
Can
to
you
interrupt.
hear
Just all you have to do is just state your name for the Hansard purposes. So
Oh, my
please,
apologies.
yes, no,
Lorraine
please
Hinek.
just start again. Yep.
My name is Lorraine Hinek, and thank you for the opportunity to respond. The Rapid Transit-Oriented Development Office that was established in the region of Durham was intended to coordinate both the planning and funding of rapid transit, and then to turn around and leverage that rapid transit in order to ensure appropriate community building in the form of vibrant transit-oriented communities. By putting the functions in one place, you have a more streamlined approach and a greater view on the opportunities coming down the pipeline, because the two hands speak together, so to speak.
And do you think, are you the only municipality, one of the only ones that would have this office in place to your knowledge?
No,
Who else
there are a
has
number
it?
of other municipalities, and Mark can help me out, Niagara, Mississauga, I believe Waterloo. Mark, I think I've missed a couple more.
York Region, I think that's...
Okay, that's great. Phenomenal. I think it's fabulous. And then with...
Minute remaining.
Okay, you've spoken, we heard this morning from the minister, they've spoken to municipalities. Have you spoken to developers at all about this, Bill 131, and what, any feedback from that? In your communities? Or?
So in our community, it is exciting. Durham is the fastest growing region in the province of Ontario, and our developers are excited about the opportunities, especially the opportunity that will come in downtown Oshawa and in Curtis. Both will increase the amount of housing available. In downtown Oshawa, it's a 5-minute walk to the train site. In Curtis will be a chance to build a new village around a train station.
Great. Okay, I'll save it. Can I bank it?
Next round.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, moving on to the government side for the 7.5 minutes. MPP Cove from Durham Region. Go ahead.
Durham Region, yes. The MPP for Whitby, and have served Whitby close to 8 years now. Regional Chair Henry, thank you for your leadership in bringing us to today's discussion, and your Director of Rapid Transit. The level of advocacy and the constructive approach of that was informative on one level, but on the other hand, has brought us to a situation where we've been able to, in the region of Durham now, proceed with a significant project that is going to have impacts for the foreseeable future to begin. What I'd like you to expand on, Regional Chair Henry, is talk about what the station contribution fee means to the economic recovery plan that the region, with your leadership, has put in place, and how's that going to affect the region of Durham as well going forward?
Well, thank you. I'm not sure I have enough time to really answer that question, but...
Take all the time you want, sir.
Well, what I'm excited to say is that we are leading in a lot of areas. And as you're aware, the work that we've done in the region is in support of OPG, and in the 4 new small modular new reactors will change the world. We've invested, not only are we investing in transit, we've invested in hospitals and we've invested in college and universities as a level of government to make sure that the young people in our community have the skill set they need to go forward today. In fact, everyone in this room is benefiting from the programs related to elevators and escalators, to the work that's going on in nuclear engineering. There isn't a job site, I believe, in Ontario that doesn't have somebody from Durham College working there right now as a tradesperson. So we've been progressive in a lot of areas to really advance our communities and to support our residents. I'm proud to say we have 8 municipalities in the region of Durham, and we have development going on in all 8 municipalities right now, all supported through the great work of the people that work at the region in support of the mayors that make up the 8 communities. It is a great time in Durham. It's a time for young people to have hope and dreams. There's help wanted signs everywhere, and we make pickup trucks again.
Well, thank you for that response. I want to transition to another aspect, service integration, and this is direct it to your Director of Rapid Transit, who's done an outstanding job on the aspects we're talking about in the station contribution fee. But I'd like to get an answer with respect to the impacts of what's being proposed in the way of service integration work across the 905 and 416 border, and what the amendments will mean to residents, including yourself, in the region of Durham, please. Thank you so much for your outstanding work.
And thank you very much for your kind words. The opportunity for integration that's presented today is quite phenomenal for the region of Durham as a whole. You may be aware we have in particular the Durham Scarborough Bus Rapid Transit project that is critical to our overall connection to the community. But as was pointed out earlier in the morning, Toronto is in the middle of all of us. We all need to connect through and around. And so there's tremendous opportunity here, and it is a very, very big objective for the region of Durham.
All right, thank you for that answer. And Chair, through you, I'm going to ask my colleague, MPP Zimbabwe, to participate. Thank you so much.
3.5 minutes.
Thank you very much. My first question for Ms. Nina, you are in the real estate, right? So when you list some property and it's close to the transit, you do mention that in the listing or not?
Yes, I mention all features.
Yes. And so you consider that as a feature?
Yes.
And based on that, the pricing or the rent could be different, or the price could be different because it's close to transit?
Not necessarily.
Not even to the station?
Not necessarily.
Okay, that's not a common thing, because according to Mississauga, anything a walkable distance from GO station or main hub of transit or Square One is usually more than 10% above the price for the rest of the city. So it is proven to escalate the price or get a better price for the units, which is close access, especially if you would like to not to have your own private car in a way. So with that said, don't you think that adding an option, giving the option to the municipalities to accelerate those projects through a different mean of funding, either through developers or through even some different property arrangements, property tax arrangement for those close to the transit hubs, would help the municipalities to kind of execute their plans and have more housing available?
I agree, but the funding should have come from the province. I did request funding from the province, and this funding should be coming, it's the province's idea, and the province's idea should come with a funding, not for someone else, but it should come with money attached to this plan. And I don't see that happening. I don't see the province offering money to help with these transit stations. I see the province offering a solution elsewhere. I'm not against transit stations. I want transit stations, but I want them funded in a way that we do have money. Like we're not without. We have money. We can do this, but we need to have the province download some of the money down to the municipalities.
Another question. Are you aware that some of the municipalities already have enough reserved money in their bank accounts? It's not in use.
I have studied the reserve funds of
30
municipalities,
seconds left.
and that money is spoken for. So when we have money in certain reserve funds for certain projects, that money's just not sitting there with no plans. The money is spoken for. The municipalities have plans. We've been planning. We've been planning for a long time.
Yeah, so Toronto have more than 320 million. Mississauga have $270 million in reserve, just for info and records. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll now move on to the second round of questionings, and we'll begin with the official opposition. MPP Harden, would you like to start, please?
Thank you very much. Just returning back, Chair Henry, to you. Thank you again for being here. I wonder if you could describe for the committee how important the region's relationships are with the folks who operate and fix public transit in the area. Like I'm talking about the unionized organizations that represent the employees, those relationships that you have. Could you just describe to us how important those are?
So, as you're aware, we service our own transit system, and our employees are all unionized. We have the ability to work with Metrolinx. They have some rail yard. They have a rail yard in Whitby. So within our communities, transportation and skilled labor already exists in a unionized environment. And I'm really, really proud of what we've been able to do together, and it's always been in partnership. I'm excited, and I have some excitement as a grandfather now, that as Durham Region grows out, and you're aware that we are a fast-growing region, the next growth area is going to be Northumberland, Port Hope, and Cobourg. And I see that they'll be in the same situation down the road as we are, where they'll need to come up with a plan to build the stations they need. So for us in Durham, Bowmanville, while we're talking about Bowmanville, I would love to have a conversation 5 years from now about Newcastle, Newtonville, and the continuing of the line, because young people need to get to work.
Absolutely.
And they will live along corridors. They'll have their bicycles. They'll ride the waterfront trail.
Yeah, thank you. I can confirm Port Hope is a beautiful place to ride a bicycle. I went through there. Saw a lot of people catching very, very big fish, very enormous big fish. Okay, but I'm taking from what you said that those relationships with those employee groups are critical to the maintenance and the operation of transit. So I guess what I'm struggling with, looking at Schedule 1 of this legislation, it's asking the City of Toronto, or it's giving the City of Toronto the power to open up collective agreements that have been negotiated in good faith with those employees. So that's Amalgamated Transit Union Local 113. And it's about just so you know, sir, just so you understand what I'm hearing, it's about making sure that the work that we are agreed on fare integration and service integration, can happen. But essentially what we're doing with Schedule 1 is we are opening up these collective agreements from Queen's Park. We're giving the mayor's office this power. What I can confirm, just so you know, what I can confirm is that Mayor Chow's office has not sought this power. It was a predecessor that had sought this power. But in the experience of Durham, I guess I'm asking for your decision makers that you work with those transit employees and those organizations. Do you think it would be a productive way to operate in the Durham municipality if someone here in our building decided to open up the agreements that you've signed in good faith with those people?
I'm not really prepared to talk about what ifs, but I will talk about our transit in our transit union. And if you're not aware, we had a major fire in our transit depot 2.5 months ago. Okay. We lost 19 buses. In a period of less than 24 hours, our teams, both non-union and union and management, were able to come together and make sure that we had 95% recovery almost immediately and are continuing to deal with that. Buses aren't something that you can go into a lot and just buy. The lead time for a bus is close to 1.5 to 2 years. So our relationship with our teams is incredible, and I'm proud of the work that we do. We have an on-demand transit system, and if you're not aware of on-demand, I'm proud to say that we're probably the only region in all of Ontario that every home in Durham region has access to transit. And it's an app on your phone, so if you live in an area where there isn't a bus, you will get a vehicle there to pick you up and get you to where you need or to a bus stop. So we've done a lot of great work with our unions to be able to manage all of that.
So I would Chair, how much time do we have left? I'm sorry.
3 minutes and 15 seconds.
Okay. So if I'm hearing you correctly, though, and thank you for reminding me about that. I'd heard reporting of that. Your relationships with those employee groups are critical to the work that happens in transit in your area, maintaining that. What I'm hearing from employee groups in Toronto is they're very concerned that they weren't consulted on this schedule to the bill. They've written letters to this committee, and we will be hearing that advice, but they weren't consulted on this bill. It's something they have spoke against at the TTC board, both under Mayor Tory, and they've currently expressed that opinion under Mayor Chow. So if I'm understanding you correctly, those relationships have helped you respond to emergencies. They've also helped you create a transit network that consumers will like, because we want consumers to use public transit. We want people to be excited about taking the bus or the train, whatever. Okay. Mr. Conway, thinking about the same issue, you've worked in a number of different environments. I'm sure you've seen all the stakeholders come together, and the friction can sometimes be a little challenging. And I guess that's part of your jobs, is trying to resolve those frictions. Same question. If in fact, and this is the advice I'm being told, the existing collective agreement that governs the transit employees of the City of Toronto has within it already a provision to allow for service integration, it just requires the employee group to be at the table, to be there when it happens, so they can assure that the vehicles that are being brought into the TTC jurisdiction are in great operational condition, that the service hours are going to be the same, that safety concerns are being met. As I understand it from the employee groups here in Toronto, that is what they have pressed for, negotiation after negotiation. If you were involved in a service integration situation here that involved the transit development community, and you knew that a party was not at the table who needed to be there for the outcome to be as successful as possible, would you be advising your client, bring that transit employee group, bring that voice to that table, so we're not dealing with problems or difficulties or issues in the courts later? Would that be your approach?
Through you, Madam Chair, I have zero experience with the operating side of transit authorities in Ontario. My expertise is solely with land economics and urban planning.
Okay. So what I will just say for the benefit of the committee's hearing into this, Chair, is I have heard loud and clear, I've expressed this view to the minister responsible, I've expressed it to the government, I'm going on record again at the committee, that there are ways to accomplish service integration that don't involve minimizing the standards and the quality that exists within the TCC jurisdiction or another transit jurisdiction. We have to find a way for all those parties to be at the table to have a successful outcome.
Thank you very much. Moving on to MPP McMahon for 4.5 minutes.
All right, speedy time again. Thank you so much for speaking about youth, right? Because often they're not at the table for the community consultations. They're not going to come out. They're not getting your electronic newsletter. They don't believe in voicemail. I'm speaking from my own kids. And so it's great you're speaking about them. And congrats to John Henry for being a grandpa, I think you just said. Yeah. So it gives you, more passion to change the world for the better, I'm sure. So very worried about the housing crisis, especially as it applies to youth and newcomers and everyone. But do you feel there should be an affordable component to any housing that's built on provincial lands? Anyone? Yeah, well.
I can answer that. So the affordability component has been missing. So we have lots of money that we are earmarked for housing, mostly federally, but there's no affordability component at all. So we do need the affordability component to be attached to our monies.
Thanks, Nina. And going down the line?
Thank you. That's a very interesting question. So in Durham Region, we have two housing corporations, the Durham Region Not-for-Profit Housing Corporation and our local housing corporation. And so we own housing. We are repurposing housing in Durham Region as we speak. And we've also had some incredible partnerships with Habitat for Humanity to do some really good builds. And I'm proud of the work that we've done before. We are in negotiations with Infrastructure Ontario on some land that is available. And again, we'll come to the table as a partnership. And through the partnership, we will work to get that done. Affordability for young people is critical, but transit makes it more affordable. Mm-hmm. When you don't have to have two cars for a couple to go whatever way, and you can rely upon transit and then have the choice of using a Uber or have a delivery service, deliver your groceries, or rent a car and take your family someplace on the weekend, that additional money comes back into the household. It could be as much as $1,500 a month if you've got two car payments and insurance. So transit-oriented development is a good plan, and it works well. And by the way, just across the road from the train station in Oshawa, there's a building on an old brownfield that will be going up that will house over 5,000 people. There'll be 5,000 units there. And that's what you want, that kind of development on a transit line.
Gosh, it seems we all should move to Durham. You're doing a good sales pitch. And then, Mark, your thoughts?
Yeah, it's a very important point. And what we haven't talked about is what happens with transit and PMSTAs, these designated transit station areas that come along with all this, is that it opens the door for inclusionary zoning. So now, not in Durham today, but with a transit station at the new stations, we now open this opportunity to extract affordable housing as part of the developer contribution to affordable housing through the legislation that's in play today.
Yeah.
So that's new. And
Great. And the rental component as well, of course. I did have, near Main Street, which I talked about, the mobility hub in beautiful Beaches, East York, is we did have a sale. Metrolink sold some land and to a developer with no affordability component to it, on 8 Dawes Road, and it's prime spot on the Danforth GO and in the area, and it's just tragic. So we need to ensure that doesn't happen.
40 seconds left.
At all, let alone on provincial lands that we did control. So appreciate that. How many seconds?
About 30 now.
30. One quick piece of advice to us as we consider this bill. We'll go with Mark. Maybe 10-second advice.
Pass the bill. This will unplug a very sticky problem that's not just in Durham. It will impact communities in Halton, Niagara, Waterloo. It's a small move, but a very important move, and the devil will be in the details. Of course.
And John, probably 3 seconds.
If you want to create more houses, effective transit routes do that. This is a good plan.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sorry, Lorraine.
That's okay. Moving on to the governor's side, 7.5 minutes. MPP Ray, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair, and I like that advice, Mark, very much. Thank you all for your presentations today as well, and thank you as well, John Henry, for your service to the region of Durham. I know MPP Co speaks highly of you and the region and his time there. My question is actually for Mark, though, and you kind of alluded to it. I guess some nonpartisan questioning this afternoon, sort of building on my Liberal colleague's questions around what are some of the challenges and opportunities do you see for home builders as a result of the proposed legislation, building more homes, and you alluded to in your last remarks, also ensuring that affordability component is in there, and how can the province potentially help further that as well going forward?
Well, honestly, I don't see any challenges to the development community. This is all good news. I mean, this is no different when 2 or 3 developers get together and they have to build a community center, but one developer only has 1 acre and the other developer has 3, and one developer is not interested in doing anything, so nothing happens. It's exactly the same thing. So what we're doing is providing a way for developers to move forward on a transit station, except the big deal here is that developers, if you look at the Curtis station, the landowners own land. It's all designated, zoned for agriculture. It's designated for some urban uses, but the land value is very low. Put in a transit station, that land value skyrockets, and that's that land value increment that we seek to capture. The developers will still enjoy a big jump in their land value, and they'll still be able to pay their transit fee and build the station, and everybody will do better. It's a win-win-win. And just, we haven't talked about affordable housing, but it's something that's near and close to our company's heart. We do more affordable housing than anything. But this triggers not only supply, which in itself helps affordability, but it also triggers opportunities for the region and the local municipalities to implement affordable housing policies that leverage inclusionary zoning, which is, as everybody if everybody goes into these things in these early days, these are all affordable and doable for developers. What hurts developers is when you shock them with legislation and they have to change plans immediately, because now their budgets are all screwed up. But we're doing this well in advance. The legislation, or the zoning and the official plans have only just started, so we're at the perfect time to implement this type of legislation.
Thank you for that, Mark. I pass it over to my colleague.
Go ahead. You have 4.5 minutes.
Okay, thank you all your presentation, and this question is for Mark again. So I'm from Hong Kong with a population of 8 million people. I just visited Hong Kong this summer. When I used the transit, I was so impressed by the transit system. One train I get off, I'm lining up for the escalator to the exit, and the next train comes. So it's back to back, basically. So I can see this, that Hong Kong is a very rely on transit system. So in this bill, when we are looking at the housing crisis, right, according to the Statistics Canada, we are looking at an increase of more than 4 million in 20 years. That is, well, Hong Kong, 8 million people. We accumulate like hundreds of years. Now we are looking at 2 decades to increase 4 million people. So it is very important that we need to build more TOCs. So according to the Transportation for the Future Act 2023, if passed, will help build more GO transit stations, spur more housing and mixed-use communities around the transit, and help make it more convenient to travel across the GTA. So from your perspective, would the proposed new tool help unlock additional TOC opportunities and spur development?
Yes, it would. Absolutely.
So can you expand it more, how this bill and the TOC community and the transit work together hand in hand?
Well, all of this happens, none of this happens unless the developers are interested in working with us. And right now, as I've said, that in Durham, the unique situation is that every station has many little developers and some very big ones, but they all have different interests and they're not moving together, and there's no one clear developer or landowner that can fund a station. And the Development Charge Act does not allow us to municipalities to fund provincial services, so we can't use that. So we have to find a new pathway, which Bill 131 is. Bill 131 brings all these developers together and motivates them to build, and in doing so, that motivation makes it so that Durham Region and the local municipalities now all join forces to design and plan these transit-oriented communities with the economic imperative that the developers have. They are the ones that are going to make this happen, and the trigger. They're going to fund not only transit, but they'll be funding the new roads, and they'll be funding the community centers and the parks as they normally do. So all of this, Bill 131 just sets this in motion in a very positive way.
Thank you very much.
Yes, MPP Ray, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. My question is for the Regional Chair. I was just wondering if you could sort of build on some of the comments Mark was making around, you've already mentioned in your remarks how this is beneficial, and the fee will be voluntary. The municipality has that power to choose to implement that fee, obviously. We're not imposing it from the province. We're just giving you the opportunity in this legislation if passed. And what other supports would you, in your opinion, as Regional Chair, like to see further unlock TOCs and the potential development from a regional sort of municipal perspective?
What I really want to see is the housing that needs to be built. And from that will help our economy in Durham continue to grow. You know, when I talk about the 5,000 units that are across the road from the station in the middle of Oshawa, that's not just the only station. There's 2,200 units just north of there. You know, when you can have almost 8,000 units of transportation built within walking distance in a municipality, that is a game changer for the downtown of that community. Our downtowns are vibrant. Every young person going to school in Durham Region right now, in any one of the university or colleges, already has a transit pass. So our young people are accustomed to utilizing transit, and now it's as they continue to go on with their life, they're not going to be running out and buying cars. They're going to rely upon the transit that's there. So the uplift and the economic benefit to the region is unbelievable in what it will do for all of the businesses along the transit route. We see that now. And it's an exciting time in Durham Region. You know, in the mornings, if you get off the train, the reverse commuting that is now occurring within our region is unbelievable. Trains go both ways. People go into Toronto to work, but they come to Durham.
Thank you very much. You were very passionate. That's good. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here today. Appreciate that. I must say that our time has come to an end with your group. So I'll give you a moment to exit And thank you again for coming. And our next group is a combination of in-person and virtual, so I'll announce them all. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Bye. Okay. Our next group of presenters are the Toronto Region Board of Trade, which is joining us virtually. The TTC riders, who I believe are in person, and I will ask them to come to the table now if they would not mind. You can come to the table now. And I believe Michael and Allison are from Hatch, and they are virtual with us. So welcome, everybody. We'll just give a few moments for everyone to settle in again and the previous presenters to exit. And then I think you all know you have 7 minutes for presentation. You just state your name before you begin your presentation. I think I'm frozen on the screen. But anyway, the people in the room heard me. Are we frozen?
We're not frozen here. We can start with Toronto Region.
Okay. I will ask if you can hear me that the Toronto Region Board of Trade, please state your name and begin your presentation. If you want to go ahead, we're ready.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon. My name is David Campbell. I'm Associate Vice President of Policy and Research with the Toronto Region Board of Trade. Thanks for having me here. On behalf of our more than 11,000 members, the board really welcomes the opportunity to make a deputation today regarding this bill, Bill 131, Transportation for the Future Act. I should first acknowledge that the bill has two distinct schedules. I'll be focusing my remarks on amendments to the City of Toronto Act, aiming to promote service integration. However, we'd like to be on the record as being supportive of new tools that support smart growth, such as the voluntary transit station charges intended to unlock transit-oriented communities along the GO Rail network, as outlined in Schedule 2. But back to Schedule 1, the intent of the proposed amendment to the City of Toronto Act is to make transit more convenient for residents across the GTA by removing a legislative barrier for the TTC to enter into cross-boundary service agreements with neighboring transit agencies. And the board has been a strong advocate for fare and service integration across the Toronto region. This included our Erasing the Invisible Line report released in November 2020, as well as a follow-up report released just this year in March with additional fare integration recommendations. The region is currently suffering from a transit system that is fragmented and a fare structure that punishes riders who cross arbitrary municipal boundaries or who transfer between agencies. Continued collaboration across municipal boundaries and between transit agencies must continue. The current system incentivizes riders to use as few agencies as possible over the course of a trip, leading to slow and less efficient journeys. This also results in network-level ridership imbalances, with some infrastructure like the subway experiencing severe overcrowding, while other infrastructure like the GO Rail corridors are often underused. A few minutes saved by a transit user each day can translate to millions of minutes across the whole system daily. And those gains multiply over weeks, months, years, and decades, making the impetus clear that we must make our system as efficient as possible now without delay. At the board, we take the region part of our name very seriously. The challenges we face generally don't respect municipal boundaries, whether that be energy, housing, employment lands, or in this case, transit. The Toronto region is a single economic unit, so the transit system must allow people to travel between municipalities as easily as they may within them. Routes should not end arbitrarily at a municipal boundary, and connections should be seamless between agencies. Truly integrating service would improve our mobility network, renew ridership levels, and have a positive impact on the region's business competitiveness. Any integration across our region must include the TTC. The TTC is at the heart of Toronto's transportation network. With transit ridership still rebounding post-COVID, service integration is also key to attracting and retaining riders and growing operating revenues. But the impacts are even broader than that. An efficient and effective transit system is a key solution to mitigate congestion, to achieve our net zero goals, and to ensure that workers are connected with job opportunities. Take congestion. MTO approximates that congestion and gridlock across the Greater Toronto and Hamilton area result in productivity losses of up to $11 billion annually. We've also heard loud and clear from our members that prolonged travel times limit job opportunities and employers' access to top talent, which hinders economic growth and development. The Toronto area is welcoming 3,000 new residents each week, a trend that's expected to intensify. And as Toronto's population grows, so will the pain of these challenges. But the opportunity is here to be seized. We're pleased that the government is taking fare integration seriously, eliminating double fares between municipal transit systems and GO Transit. Adding the TTC to this program is key and a top priority for the business community, and we look forward to its timely implementation. A continued focus on fare and service integration will also ensure that we are maximizing the investments being made in transit projects in the GTA right now. The region needs and deserves a truly world-class system. Our economic competitiveness depends on it, and transit riders deserve nothing less. Thank you.
Very much. We'll now move on to the TTC riders. Please state your name before you begin, and go ahead.
Thank you. Hello, members of the TEN Committee. My name is August Purnath. I'm speaking for TTC Riders. We're a grassroots nonprofit organization fighting for better transit here in the city of Toronto. And I'm also an everyday transit rider. I took the subway here to Queen's Park today, and it was quite slow and rough. But I just want to say right off the bat, our organization supports a single flat fare within the city of Toronto so that transit riders can freely transfer between TTC, GO, and Up Express without paying double fares. This would especially help transit riders in Scarborough, where the RT has been shut down recently. Many transit riders cannot afford to pay a double fare. Many transit riders take slower, longer routes to avoid paying a double fare, and this just needs to change. We are encouraged by your promise to fund the discount and look forward to learning more about the program. We think that free transfers between GO, TTC, and Up Express should be subsidized by the provincial government so that cost is not borne by transit riders through the fares we pay. We also support local fare integration that allows free transfers across municipal borders. Bill 131 proposes service integration, which could make transit easier to use and travel across the Toronto area. But we have questions about how this legislation could negatively impact transit riders if we are not careful. First, I want to ask, will the provincial government guarantee and fund minimum service standards for transit? Toronto transit users do not want to see TTC routes replaced with less frequent routes provided by 905 agencies, the agencies in the other parts of the Greater Toronto Area. Regardless of which agency provides service along cross-boundary corridors, Toronto service standards must be maintained so that riders can count on their bus arriving frequently and with enough room to board. The TTC actually plans to reallocate service from areas along Toronto's borders into other areas central to the city, as more cross-boundary trips are done by these 905 transit agencies. Even if reallocated TTC trips are replaced by other transit agencies in the GTA, that doesn't mean more room for riders. Many buses entering and leaving Toronto to other parts of the GTA are already crowded. I used to live in Durham, now I live in the city, but my experience taking buses from Durham into the city were that they were often very overcrowded. They were already at standing room, and they wouldn't provide much service to Scarborough transit riders unless we saw a service increase broadly. Many of Toronto's lowest income, racially diverse, and transit-dependent neighborhoods are near the edge of the city and served by cross-boundary routes. These are Malvern, this is Northern Rexdale, parts of Northern Scarborough, and North York. It's important that they have transit service protected. Number 2, how will transit riders have a say over service? Elected officials and transit agencies in York, Peel, and Durham are not accountable to Toronto residents. Adequate funding for guaranteed service standards could help address this, but transit agencies must also be accountable to the residents that they serve. We are also concerned that the legislation could delegate authority to TTC staff or its board and see major decisions about service agreements go forward without debate or input from the public at Toronto City Council. This means no input from transit riders, and those are the people who use the system every day, and they should have a voice. This is a major concern if 905 agencies cut service to Toronto transit riders that they depend on. Number 3, how will fares work? Would a transit user need to pay twice if they were traveling within Toronto on a cross-boundary service? Transit rides within Toronto should be paid for by a single flat TTC fare. That's what we support. and it's regardless of its transit agency. In its 5-year policy review, the TTC board affirmed its support for a flat fare in Toronto with free 2-hour transfers. This fare structure ensures that people are not penalized for traveling further, and a time-based transfer which primarily benefits women who tend to take shorter, more consecutive trips, such as running errands and groceries, through trip chaining. Shift workers and low-income people often are faced with longer and longer commutes while living in this deeply unaffordable region. It is unfair to ask them to pay more for transit just because they're riding for longer. Number 4, will the provincial government fund transit operations to make up for lost revenue? Because the TTC operating budget relies heavily on fares, we're concerned about the possibility of the TTC losing fare revenue to other agencies. Before the pandemic, 2/3 of revenue came from the fare box, the fares that we pay every day for the TTC. This isn't sustainable, and without a source of funding, service could be cut. Toronto already has one of the lowest subsidies in North America among transit agencies per rider. The province of Ontario used to fund 50% of TTC operations over 2 decades ago, but that was taken away. They also funded 50% of operations for other local transit agencies. We need this provincial government to step up and properly fund transit operations for the TTC. Last, I'll talk about the other piece of Bill 131, which is proposing changes to how GO stations are funded. Schedule 2 raises concerns about whether GO stations will be built in areas underserved by transit, but where developers are not planning to build. In 2019, Doug Ford pitched the idea of funding new Scarborough subway extension stations through developers, but that didn't happen. The province ended up footing the bill. This raises a question. If funding from the province doesn't materialize, does this represent a downloading of costs from the province to the municipality? Furthermore, if there is enough development to cover initial construction costs, but not cost increases, as often happens with transit projects or station maintenance, this also downloads a provincial responsibility onto municipalities.
60 seconds remaining.
Once again, we urge this government to commit to fund transit operations to ensure that riders do not foot the bill for service integration, that service is not cut back because of lost fare revenue, and to support local transit systems in the long term. We also urge this government to fully fund new GO stations in areas underserved by transit and do not have that much development potential. Thank you.
Thank you so much.